Hello all, and welcome to the Easy Nerd. Today I'm continuing the reimagining of the Snyderverse and building it up to be more like the MCU in structure, continuing the DCEU Phase 1. Now, continuing from Man of Steel as the first movie in 2013 and the Batman Arkham Asylum movie in 2014, we move on to 2015, a Man of Steel sequel titled Man of Steel Last Son, directed by Christopher McQuarrie, as he did want to make one a few years back. And I've kept the new cast members, people he has worked with on the Mission Impossible franchise. The cast will consist of Superman, aka Clark Kent, aka Kal-El, played by Henry Cavil. Henry Cavill would also play Bizarro as well. Lois Lane, played by Amy Adams. Colonel John Corbin, aka Metallo, played by Jeremy Renner. General Sam Lane, played by Alec Baldwin. Martha Kent, played by Diane Lane. Perry White, played by Lawrence Fishburne. Lara L., played by Ayelet Zurer. General Swanwick, played by Harry Lennox. Ginny, played by Rebecca Buller, who I will be making essentially a gender-swapped Jimmy Olsen for this universe. Ultra-Human-ite, aka Lex Luthor, played by Jesse Eisenberg. Toyman, aka Winslow Schott, played by Simon Pegg. The President, played by Patrick Wilson. Jonathan Kent, played by Kevin Costner. Batman, played by Ben Affleck, would also cameo. We would start off with a flashback we didn't see in Man of Steel, showing baby Kal-El's space pod crashing down near Smallville, and Jonathan and Martha Kent find the baby and taking him and his ship away in their truck as military vehicles arrive and take the remains, which is small green kryptonite crystals with Kal-El's DNA, which is taken to a base overseen by a younger General Sam Lane. In the present day, we see an epic montage of Superman doing saves, starting with him stopping a plane in London, England from crashing into Big Ben and landing it at Heathrow Airport. Then he flies to Japan, where he saves a village from a volcano. And then finally, he flies to Metropolis, where he stops a gang in a green armored car during a car chase by catching the car in a tribute to the Action Comics issue 1 cover. And then, similar to All-Star Superman graphic novel, he talks a goth girl down from jumping off a building in a touching scene to really show what Superman is all about. Then, after at the Daily Planet, as Lois gets photos from Jenny, Perry White is angrily looking for Clark Kent, who appears wearing his classic glasses, telling Perry he's been here the whole time. And after Clark asks Lois out on their first date, General Sam Lane and Colonel John Corbin in a military base check on a clone of Superman in Project Bizarro, who was grown from Kal-El's cell from the green kryptonite left behind when he crash-landed. Clark Kent visits his mother Martha Kent on the Kent farm as they catch up, and she encourages him to pursue a relationship with Lois. And then she says, when the house was salvaged from the previous attack, she found this. And she hands Clark a Kryptonian crystal, which calls out to Clark, who hears a woman's voice. Superman flies to the Arctic, following the woman voice with the crystal, and arrives at the site where the Kryptonian ship was previously. And then a Kryptonian structure forms, and Superman enters and is met by an AI hologram of his mother, Lara L., who tells Superman who he is, and that the previous Kryptonian ship left technology that has developed. As Superman puts the Kryptonian crystal in to finish the structure, as Lara L., via holograms, begins teaching Superman the history of Krypton and how war, hate, and greed destroyed the planet. And she foresees a similar fate for the planet Earth. And after Superman and Lara L. talk about Zod and his army, and his regret on how he killed Zod and banished the army, making him alone and a killer. But Lara L. assures him he did the only thing he could do in the moment, in killing Zod. Meanwhile, at the military base, General Sam Lane and Colonel John Corbin have a meeting with other high-ranking U.S. military officials, including General Swanwick, as they form a secret council and reveal their backer and tech expert on a large screen. Being a avatar calling himself the Ultra-Human-ite, as they plan on assassinating Superman, but General Swanwick walks out of the meeting saying Superman is a hero. Clark and Lois at night in Metropolis have dinner in a fancy restaurant together, but it doesn't go well, as Lois wants to discuss Clark's actions as Superman, who doesn't want to talk about being Superman. Back at the base, General Sam Lane, Colonel John Corbin, and Ultra-Human Ite present the other military officials their Superman clone Bizarro, who they have programmed to kill Superman. Superman slowly flies over Metropolis later that night, and he flies past large screens where people have debates about Superman and his actions, as Superman watches them with the majority of people against him, as well as it establishes tensions in the world between the US and Russia, since both obtained Kryptonian technology. And then, Superman visits his mother Martha on the Kent farm again, as they talk about the world's negative reaction to him. We then jump back to the Daily Planet, where Clark and Lois are assigned to look into The Toy Man by Perry White, who is sending threatening videos and letters, and also promising to bomb Metropolis, as Jenny is assigned to get a photo of Superman. As Clark and Lois throughout Metropolis look into the Toy Man, who Lois profiles as ex-military with a vendetta, from experience as an army brat and reporter impressing Clark. General Swanwick plays golf with the president, as the general tells him about the military conspiracy to kill Superman, but the president seems to have knowledge and support of it. Bizarro in front of the military cable, showing he has all of Superman's abilities, and the green kryptonite gives him strength as he heat visions and inhales it. As Bizarro is given Kryptonian Russian armor ready for his coming battle with Superman, Clark follows Lois' lead, as at Metropolis Crime Lab, she speaks to friends to get a list of suspects who could be the Toy Man who struck Metropolis years ago. As they cross-reference the Toy Man videos and letters with the suspects, while the Toy Man in his lair communicates with the Ultra-Human Ite, as the Toy Man is revealed to be a fan of Zod's actions, as they both say, "Zod was right." As Toy Man is instructed on where to put his bombs, as Clark and Lois discover his identity as Winslow Schott, who is ex-military. Clark at the Daily Planet the next day discovers Lois has tracked down the Toy Man to Metropolis slums and is captured as the Toy Man in his warehouse. As the crazed Toy Man tells, tied to a chair, Lois that he hates all the time and resources put into the great city of Metropolis, where people like him, ex-military, suffer and are homeless. And Metropolis will pay the price today, as he placed bombs all around the city, and Toy Man activates his toy-themed gun turrets. But Superman flies in and saves Lois, blocking the bullets and knocking Toy Man to the ground, but not before noticing the Zod is right posters, as Toy Man detonates the warehouse, causing an explosion, killing himself. As Superman flies Lois out to safety, as Jenny arrives and gets a photo of Superman saving Lois, who tells Superman about Toy Man bombs. Superman flies up and stops all the bombs in Metropolis except for one covered in lead, as Superman fails to stop the bomb but helps the surviving civilians and emergency services, while Bizarro in his armor is unleashed. Clark, who is sad he didn't get to the last bomb, asks Lois out again at the Daily Planet, as she and Jenny are congratulated for their good work by Perry White, and Clark takes Lois to a diner where they have bacon and coffee and have a better time on this date in a more natural environment. And as Clark and Lois almost kiss, General Sam Lane, who is Lois's father, and Colonel John Corbin arrive, with Lois sharing a tense moment with her father. She hates calling him a warmonger, and Corbin attempting to hurt Clark while squeezing his hand, but fails for obvious reasons. And after Lois tells Clark her father is the reason she became a reporter to expose evil men like him, afterwards, Superman, flying over Metropolis, is ambushed by the armored Bizarro as they smash into the large building site center of Metropolis that is being rebuilt. And Superman leads Bizarro away from the city, far away, as they have a chase around the world. Firstly around Paris, then they both smash into the Colosseum of Rome and fight, and then through the pyramids of Egypt, and finally the Great Wall of China, where Superman gets the upper hand on Bizarro and drags him flying into the side of the wall, and finally flies him to the Fortress of Solitude in the Arctic, where Superman has the AI Lara L imprison Bizarro in a crystal cell, where she says she will scan and learn more about him. Meanwhile, General Sam Lane, Colonel John Corbin, and Ultra-Human Ite have a meeting about Superman, with the Ultra-Humanite revealing he can't see through lead, and John Corbin, who has a bad heart, has an operation to have it replaced with a green kryptonite metallic heart, supervised by the Ultra-Humanite as Corbin becomes Metallo. Clark, after catching up with Martha again at the farm, as Superman follows loads of Ultra-Humanite-controlled unmanned military jets, which are encased in lead that lead to the canyons of the American Badlands, where Superman and the jets essentially have a dogfight, and Superman takes most of the jets out by flying into them, but is knocked to the ground where Metallo ambushes him and takes him down with help from his green kryptonite beam fired from his chest. Superman wakes up strapped on a metal table in a military base, watched by General Sam Lane and Metallo, as a remote Ultra-Humanite has him tortured with green kryptonite needles to experiment on to find his weaknesses, and then Bizarro, sent and educated by the Lara-L AI, smashes in, freeing Superman, as Superman stops Bizarro from killing soldiers by flying into and smashing them both outside. And Superman, Bizarro, and Metallo have a three-way battle, and when Bizarro is knocked down, Metallo emotionally reveals why he hates Superman, revealing his sister and niece were in Central Metropolis during the battle with Zod, and the destroyed Kryptonian tech caused them to have radiation poison and die. As Superman manages with a metal bar knock Metallo down, and he and Bizarro fly off and escape. Meanwhile, General Sam Lane goes to the Oval Office and shows the president footage and evidence of Bizarro being a Russian Superman clone and its attack on the military base. As the president agrees they need to show strength and force, Clark, Lois, Jenny, Perry, and others around the world watch the president's press conference, where he reveals he is putting aircraft carriers and warships in Russian waters to surround them as they have committed acts of war. As this is shown with General Sam Lane commanding the U.S. fleet, while Bizarro flies to the plains of Africa, watching the wildlife and feeling happy being on this world with the animals, as Lois calls her father and lying gets him to allow her to be on the USS Amazon flagship. Superman at the Fortress of Solitude visits Lara-L, who reveals Bizarro is a misunderstood creature manipulated into his actions. As Superman and Lara-L agree, forces are at play to cause a world war, and they must stop the escalation and expose them. As Superman flies to the Arctic Ocean, where both the U.S. and Russian fleet are near each other, and General Sam Lane has the Ultra-Humanite hack the Russian ship and launch a missile, which Superman flies into and destroys, which General Lane sees as an act of law, and to his own men's shock has missiles launched from his ships. But as Superman stops missiles on both sides, Lois, with the help of a remote General Swanwick, shuts down the command's ship's communications and launch sequences, stopping all missiles. As General Lane grabs his daughter, angry, stating he did this to cause a world war to strengthen the next generations, and that war is good for humanity. But the general is knocked out, as Superman is aided by Bizarro in destroying the last missiles, preventing World War III. Superman and Bizarro are ambushed by Metallo in mid-air, and both work together to defeat Metallo, with Bizarro apparently kills Metallo, ripping out his kryptonite heart and dropping him in the ocean. And Bizarro, crazed after absorbing the kryptonite, tells Superman, who tries to calm him, that these humans are destroying this world, as he heat visions and attacks ships on both sides, destroying the USS Amazon, killing General Lane, and causing Lois to nearly drown until Superman flies in and saves her and fights Bizarro, ending with him flying Bizarro into the Fortress of Solitude, which the villain attempts to destroy the fortress with his heat vision, with Superman having grabbed him by the neck in the same way he grabbed Zod before killing him, but throws Bizarro to the ground, shouting, "Never again," refusing to kill him. As Bizarro, with a piece of kryptonite from before, goes to stab Superman, but his mother, Lara-L, sacrifices herself to destroy the Fortress of Solitude with Bizarro in, crushing and killing him. As Superman flies outside and watches, later, the Ultra-Humanite at LexCorp Tower in Metropolis is revealed to be Lex Luthor, who has his aides killed, stating that this is not a victory for Superman, as he now knows his weaknesses and limits, being kryptonite. Superman after flies to the White House, where the president on the lawn thanks and salutes Superman. Perry White, with Jenny, goes on a live TV talk show where he has Jenny for the first time show off the picture of Superman she took, saving Lois, and declare he is a hero to the world, and many have misjudged him and his actions. Clark and Mother Martha sit at Smallville Cemetery and discuss not only his progress as Superman, but growth being a human, with him starting a relationship with Lois Lane. With Clark seeing a smiling vision of his father, Jonathan Kent, smiling at him, as Martha tells Clark that he will make enemies, as we see a montage showing Lex Luthor watching Superman footage angrily, Metallo's body being put in storage, and his eyes showing metallic skulls and hinting at Brainiac. And finally, a cameo from Batman standing in the Batcave, watching footage of Superman as we hear Zod's "You are not alone," words from Man of Steel on a loop. In the end, Clark and Lois meet atop the Daily Planet, finally sharing a kiss together as they discuss the public turning in favor of Superman, as this is shown around the world, as Clark superhears sirens and does the shirt rip as Superman and flies away epically. And that is the end of the Man of Steel Last Son plot outline, which would set up Batman v Superman and a future sequel, last in the Man of Steel trilogy. Thanks for watching, and let me know your thoughts in the comments. This has been The Easy Nerd.